The scene is set. It's Monday night, January 19th, 2026. The digital world is in its usual lull, just the standard doom scrolling and cat videos. And then a notification pings. It's not the usual carefully curated content we expect from celebrities. It isn't a paparazzi shot of a glamorous dinner or a red carpet pose. It is 821 words of raw, unfiltered text.
And, usually when a celebrity posts a no-sap, apology, or statement, the collective eyes of the internet roll. But this was different. The breath of the internet was held in that exact moment.
It felt different because of who posted it. Brooklyn Beckham, the scion of arguably Britain's most polished, most controlled dynasty, hits share on 6 Instagram slides that essentially shatter a decades-long image in seconds. Suddenly, quotes are flashing across screens globally. I have been silent for years, bribe, humiliated.
It is the absolute worst-case scenario for a PR machine that has run flawlessly for, 25 years.
And the cameras flashed, the crowd froze, and just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession. The golden couple is at war. Welcome to StarScope Report.
It is good to be here.
I'm Jordan, and with me is Jamie. Our mission here is to cut through the noise. We don't just read the headlines. We uncover the machinery behind the Hollywood drama, the music industry shakeups, and the viral scandals everyone is talking about. We dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today, we have a massive one. We are dissecting the complete alleged breakdown of brand Beckham. This isn't just family gossip. This is a case study in what happens when a family business, where the business is the family itself, goes bankrupt emotionally.
Yeah.
We're talking allegations of bribery involving birthrights, wedding horror stories that are finally seeing the light of day, and a legal battle that is tearing a dynasty apart.
Let's jump right into the headline that started this firestorm. You might have seen the YouTube titles or the frantic tweets. Beckhams bribed their son, the truth.
I have to be honest, when I first saw that headline, I dismissed it. It just sounds like clickbait. The idea of parents bribing a child, especially a child who is already wealthy and famous by birth, it just seems absurd. But when you actually read the text Brooklyn released and you layer it with the legal context, it stops being absurd and starts becoming very, very calculated.
So to get everyone on the same page, rumors of a feud between Brooklyn and his wife, Nicola Peltz, against his parents, David and Victoria Beckham, have been swirling for years. It's been the elephant in the room at every fashion week. But on January 19, Brooklyn broke his silence. He posted a 6-page statement declaring he does not want to reconcile. But the part that we really need to unpack is this specific allegation about a bribe.
It's a stunning accusation. He alleges that weeks before his April 2022 wedding, David and Victoria repeatedly pressured and attempted to bribe him into signing away the rights to his own name.
Just imagine the atmosphere of that conversation. Happy wedding day, son. Now sign over your identity. But what exactly does signing away his name mean in this context? Because he's a Beckham. That's his name.
Right, and this is where we have to look at the business records, specifically the trademark history. According to legal experts analyzing the filing, like Dave Stewart, Victoria actually registered Brooklyn Beckham as a trademark back in 2016.
2016, he would have been 16 or 17, a minor.
Exactly, a minor. She registered it for a massive range of classes. Class 3 for deodorants and perfumes, Class 25 for clothing, Class 28 for toys. Essentially, they locked down the commercial rights to his identity before he was even an adult. But here is the critical piece of the puzzle. Trademarks in the UK and EU generally have a 10-year lifespan before they need renewal. That trademark expires in December 2026.
So the timing of this bribe allegation makes perfect sense. The clock was ticking.
Precisely. This looks like a preemptive strike at turf war. The Beckhams likely needed to secure the name rights for another decade before they expired. Or, more importantly, before he got married and potentially launched his own competing ventures. Imagine if he opened a restaurant called Beckham's Kitchen, or a clothing line. If he owns his name, he capitalizes on the goodwill they built. If they own it, they control the profit and the quality.
It changes the entire context of the wedding. It wasn't just a celebration of love, it was a deadline for a contract negotiation.
And that is exactly how Brooklyn framed it. He wrote, quote, "My family values public promotion and endorsements above all else. Brand Beckham comes first."
That is a devastating critique because he is essentially saying the family dynamic is a business arrangement. He describes a life where LUD is determined by social media posts and photo ops. He claims that because he refused to sign the deal, it affected the payday, and his parents have never treated him the same since.
Affected the payday. That implies that his inheritance or his allowance was conditional on him remaining an employee of the brand. It paints a picture of a family where the image is the product, and the children are just staff members who can be disciplined or, demonetized.
That is a harsh reality to grow up in. You're not a son, you're a subsidiary. And if you think a legal battle over a surname is cold, the behavior at the wedding itself shifts this from a business dispute to something much more personal and, frankly, humiliating.
And this is where the story moves from the boardroom to the ballroom.
Huh?
The headline here is essentially, "The Wedding Hijack, I've Never Felt More Humiliated."
Let's set the scene for you. It's April 2022, a lavish wedding in Palm Beach. 500 guests. It is the society event of the year. Brooklyn and Nicola have a very specific romantic first dance planned.
A specific song, a specific moment. This is usually the emotional peak of the wedding reception.
Exactly. Mark Anthony, who is a close friend of the Beckhams, calls the groom to the stage. Brooklyn is thinking, okay, this is it, my romantic dance with my wife. But instead, Victoria Beckham is waiting there.
I can't even imagine the secondhand embarrassment in that room. Brooklyn claims she danced very inappropriately on him in front of everyone.
He used strong words. He described feeling uncomfortable and humiliated. And we aren't just taking his word for it. This wasn't a private moment. 500 people saw it. There was immediate corroboration. A wedding guest, Stavros Agapio, initially commented on Instagram saying, "I was there." He's telling the truth before mysteriously deleting it.
And DJ Fat Tony, who is a staple in that social circle and who was the DJ for the event, also chimed in on social media mocking the situation, basically confirming it happened. It reinforces this narrative Brooklyn is pushing, that his boundaries were consistently ignored. It's almost as if Victoria needed to assert that she was the most important woman in his life, even on his wedding day.
It feels incredibly territorial. And speaking of power moves, we finally got clarity on the infamous dress debacle. For years, the rumor in the tabloids, likely planted by sources close to the Beckhams, was that Nicola was being a diva and refused to wear Victoria's design.
That was the narrative for years. The ungrateful daughter-in-law snubbing the fashion icon mother. But Brooklyn's statement completely flips that script.
He claims Victoria canceled making Nicola's dress in the 11th hour. The 11th hour, that is a nightmare for any bride. It forced a total panic to find a Valentino gown. It wasn't a snub by Nicola, it was a cancellation by Victoria.
And looking at it strategically, leaving the bride without a dress right before the wedding is a way to induce chaos. It shifts the focus from the joy of the event to crisis management.
And there's another detail in the statement that really stings, something smaller but perhaps more telling about the emotional state of affairs. Brooklyn alleges that during the planning, Victoria called him evil.
Evil. That is a heavy word to use on your child. What could possibly spark that level of vitriol?
Seating arrangements.
You're kidding.
I wish I was. Brooklyn and Nicola wanted to seat their grandmothers, Nanny Sandra and Nicola's nanny, at the head table because they were both widows. They wanted to honor them. Apparently, this disruption of the traditional hierarchy caused Victoria to lash out.
That connects right back to that idea of Bram Beckham rigidity. There is a way things look, a way things are done, and deviating from that, even for a sentimental reason, like honoring widowed grandmothers, is seen as a betrayal. It suggests the aesthetic of the head table was more important than the emotional reality of the family.
It's heartbreaking. It really underlines the tension between looking good and being good. And if you're finding this deep dive into the machinery of celebrity families fascinating, make sure you're subscribed to StarScope Report. We've got even crazier stories ahead, and trust me, you don't want to miss the fallout of this one because it involves legal threats and blocked numbers.
So we've heard about the wedding and the money, but a skeptic might ask, is this just a clash between Nicola and Victoria? Is this just a mother-in-law dispute gone wrong? Or is there a deeper pattern of behavior here?
That is the million-dollar question. And it turns out there are witnesses from the past who are coming forward. The headline here could be "The Ghosts of Girlfriends Past and the LA Fires."
Ah, this is where the story gained traction outside of the wedding bubble. An ex-girlfriend has entered the chat.
Tallia Storm. She dated Brooklyn back in 2014 when they were teenagers, and she has publicly come out as 100% Team Brooklyn.
And her stories are, well, they're illuminating. She describes what she calls the Beckham web.
It sounds like a spy movie operation. She claims Victoria would send security teams to sweep venues before a teenage Brooklyn even arrived. But worse, she alleges that Victoria's team would call the paparazzi on Brooklyn and Tallia to stage photos without the kids knowing.
That is, using your child's dating life as PR fodder. It commodifies their adolescence. It turns a teenage date into a photo opportunity for the brand.
Exactly. Tallia tells the story about the Global Gift Gala. She was supposed to go with Brooklyn. She's inside, waiting, and she gets a text from him saying, "My mom won't let me come."
Wow. It establishes a history of control. It contradicts the idea that this is all Nicola's influence poisoning Brooklyn against his parents. It sounds like Brooklyn has been dealing with this gatekeeping of his life for over a decade.
And that brings us to what might have been the last straw for Brooklyn, the dog rescue feud.
This feels like the most tangible proof of the brand first accusation.
So for context, January 2025, the LA wildfires are raging, 200,000 people are displaced. Nicola and Brooklyn are raising money for Yogi's House, a dog rescue charity.
A clearly noble cause. It's hard to find fault with saving dogs from fires.
They asked Victoria for support, not even necessarily money, just social media support, a repost to her millions of followers or a donation, and Victoria refused.
She refused to post.
Refused. Brooklyn cites this as definitive proof. He says they've gone to every fashion show, every press event for the family to support her business, but when they asked for help saving displaced animals, the answer was no.
And we checked the receipts on this. Brooklyn donated $5,000. An anonymous donor, likely Nicola's family, gave $25,000. Victoria gave nothing publicly to that specific fundraiser.
It really solidifies Brooklyn's argument that if it doesn't serve the brand, it doesn't happen. And he's not the only one nodding along. Rebecca Loos resurfaced.
Now that is a blast from the past. David's former personal assistant from the early 2000s scandal.
She commented on Instagram saying, "So happy he is standing up for himself, knowing too well what they can be like."
When you have people from 2004 and 2014 echoing the complaints of 2026, it becomes harder to dismiss Brooklyn as just a rebellious son acting out. It starts to look like a systemic issue of control and image management.
Absolutely. It's a pattern of behavior that spans decades. But we've heard the accusations. How is the empire striking back? You don't build a brand this big without knowing how to fight dirty.
The headline here is Silence, Block Numbers, and Legal Threats.
Let's look at the parents, David and Victoria. How do you respond when your son drops a nuclear bomb on your reputation?
Well, you try to maintain the high ground. David appeared on CNBC's Squawk Box. He didn't address the bribery or the dancing directly. He just said, "Children make mistakes. That is how they learn."
That is such a classic dad response, but it's also a strategic one. It infantilizes Brooklyn. He's just a confused kid. He's 26 years old. He's a married man.
It's a deflection strategy. If you frame him as a child throwing a tantrum, you don't have to address the validity of his claims regarding trademarks and bribes. Meanwhile, Victoria went with the royalty approach. Total silence. She posted a birthday tribute to Emma Button Baby Spice and promoted Cruz's music gig. She pointedly ignored Brooklyn to show that business continues as usual.
But behind the scenes, it's not so quiet. Reports from the Daily Express state Victoria is preparing a cease-and-desist letter.
Which is incredibly aggressive, sending a cease and desist to your own son. The goal is obviously to prevent further embarrassing allegations to protect the brand stock value, essentially. But legally threatening your child usually solidifies the estrangement. You can't sue someone into loving you.
And speaking of estrangement, there is a messy connection involving Romeo, Brooklyn's brother. Brooklyn claims his mom invited women from his past to events to intentionally make Nicola uncomfortable.
And the internet detectives think they found the link. This points to Kim Turnbull. She's Romeo's current girlfriend, but she was linked to Brooklyn years ago.
So the mom invites the ex, who is now dating the brother, to family events, knowing it makes the current wife uncomfortable. That is layered. It feels Machiavellian.
It creates a hostile environment while maintaining plausible deniability. Oh, she's just Romeo's girlfriend. Why are you upset? It's gaslighting 101.
And what about the brothers? Cruz posted a rebuttal saying his parents woke up blocked. He's denying that David and Victoria unfollowed Brooklyn first. He's saying Brooklyn blocked them.
Which Brooklyn essentially admitted in his statement. He says his anxieties disappeared since stepping away. He describes waking up grateful and finding peace. That tells you how much toll this brand Beckham pressure was taking on his mental health. For him, the block button was a survival mechanism.
It really does sound like he chose his sanity over his inheritance. It's a tragedy wrapped in a tabloid scandal.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it raises a massive question about the sustainability of family brands in the age of social media. In the 2000s, you could control the narrative with a few friendly journalists. You can't control the narrative when your employees, your children, have their own platforms and millions of followers.
Exactly. The curated image is dead because the cast members can go rogue. Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because this story changes by the hour.
So let's recap what we've uncovered today. We have a family torn apart by trademark disputes over a birth name, allegations of financial bribery, inappropriate wedding behavior that humiliated the groom, and a fundamental disagreement on what family means.
On one side, you have brand Beckham, the polished, perfect, commercially viable unit that has sold us a dream for 2 decades. On the other, you have the eldest son claiming that image is a lie that cost him his mental health.
It contrasts the perfect family image we've been sold with the reality of legal letters, non-disclosure agreements, and block numbers.
So here is a final provocative thought for you to mull over. The Beckham brand relies entirely on the image of a tight-knit, perfect family. That is their currency. They sell the idea of family success. If the eldest son just destroyed that image, does the brand still have any value?
That is the danger. If the product is family and the family is broken, what are they actually selling? Is this the beginning of the end for the empire?
That is the question we'll be watching. You've been listening to StarScope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.